Hey, ADR, this is King Black, and I'm gonna tell y'all why Tekashi 6ix9ine is so afraid of staying in jail, especially if for any reason he got put into the penitentiary and not the jail. But even in jail, he faced a lot of risks, and this is why. Everybody knows by now that Tekashi 6ix9ine reps the Blood Gang. Most likely the UBN from New York. It's no secret. He's always, you know, throwing up the bees. He even got his Tahoe wrapped with that red bandana. And Tekashi has been going all over the country, trying to get his clout point game up. And for a long time it worked. He kept telling people to come test his gangster. He wasn't afraid of nobody. And you had the Texas situation, you had the LA situation, but he came out of it without a scratch. The one L I can say that he took was when he went to Chicago and he supposedly went to O Block. And he made a video saying nobody was out there, and a lot of people were saying that he went there early in the morning, like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, that nobody was going to be outside anyway. And surveillance video showed that he wasn't even there for a minute. And at the first sign of a vehicle approaching, he jumped in his Tahoe or his SUV and left. So it was basically fronting for the IG, doing the Bow Wow challenge, Hood edition. Anyways, so that's the only L I can say that he took, legitly. Now the reason why Tekashi is afraid to stay in jail or to be there for an extended period amount of time, especially when he got his bail denied at first. He's out on bail now, so he's not there now. He's free, but he still has to go down to Texas and turn himself in. But he won't stay in jail down there either. Supposedly they granted him bail down there too for $5,000, so he'll be out. But the reason why he's afraid to go to jail, especially like where he was at in Rikers, even though Rikers has a large blood presence there, is you had to think, man, this kid is from a generation that previous generations don't understand. These new kids in the organization now are doing a whole lot of funny stuff. And you have to remember that in the jail and in the prisons, you have people that have spent decades behind bars who haven't been free since the early 80s, mid 80s, early 90s. And these people, these shot callers or OGs, whatever you want to call them, it's like they're stuck in a time machine. They don't know what's going out here truly. They might hear rumors, and they personally probably never even used an iPhone. You know what I'm saying? These people are stuck in time. And when you have these hardcore shot callers that have been in jail for 15, 20 years, especially if they're a blood in Rikers or whatever prison Tekashi makes it at, gangbanging and being a gang member, especially in the 80s and 90s, was a whole totally different thing, man. The Tekashi would not have been accepted back then. That rainbow hair, rainbow grill, none of that would have been given the okay back then. And for one of these shot callers that's been 20 years in jail, They've been living, breathing, eating, you know, prison, jail. They're already king of that bubble. And they're set in their ways. So, when they see this kid pull up with rainbow hair claiming blood, something that these people probably killed for back in the late 80s, or dealt a whole bunch of crack or heroin for in the early 90s, and are spending 20, 30 years for these actions, are going to look at him and be like, I didn't do what I did for people like him to be a part of my organization. And they don't play. In jail, I talk all this stuff like avoid violence and use it as a last resort, or use it as self-defense. Don't look for trouble. But in jail and in prison, you ain't got to worry about all that, because it's going to find you. Especially if you're new and nobody knows who you are. Or even if some people know who you are, they're going to want to test you. And I don't think Tekashi's prepared for all that, man. Because you look at him stature-wise, he's not built like, if you look at pictures of what Tookie used to look like, one of the founders of the Crips back in the day, man. He was built. If you look at a lot of these people in prison and jail, they're built because all they're doing is push-ups, sit-ups in their cell hundreds of times. And then you got Tekashi out there. He's gonna go to jail with his rainbow hair. You're gonna have some sharks in that jail system looking at him in a different kind of way. I once heard a quote that in jail everything's for sale. So if somebody wanted to get close to Tekashi, man, it's only a matter of time. And I've been hearing some real goofy stuff going down, And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That's why I say you should be living right and not trying to get in jail or be put in the penitentiary. Because there ain't nothing good waiting for you there. There's no positivity there. You got people who made the wrong choices, spending decades of their life, if not their whole life, in jail, who are never getting out. And if you come up in there with short time, a couple years, 5 years, 10 years max, they will have no problem telling you to go shank somebody. And if you don't do it, they're going to deal with you. And if you do it and you get caught, if somebody snitches on you, you're going to become one of them. You're also going to be spending decades behind bars, spending your whole life behind bars. You're just going to be just like them, whether you wanted it or not. So that's why my best advice is to avoid any type of activity that's going to get you there. Unless it's self-defense. You should never be trying to provoke violence. You should be ready to deal with it and be ready to defend yourself and defend yours. But you shouldn't be out there actively looking for trouble. Because you're playing a risky game of chance. Even if you come out on top, that doesn't mean you can't get caught by the one time or by the cops or whatever, or by the feds. So maybe your rivals didn't get you, but your actions, got you caught up in a whole nother situation. So that's my opinion, Tekashi doesn't want to be there any longer than he has to, because he knows that the sharks are circling. No matter how big his entourage is on the street, in prison it works different. In jail ain't nothing for free, not even that protection. He has to give something up. And I don't think he wants to put that to the test, because he might tell everybody on the street to test his gangster. But he knows very well not to say that same thing in jail, because you got people in there that don't care. They don't care that the guards are watching. They don't care that they have locked doors. These people have had time to analyze any single weakness They might have a dirty corrections officer on their payroll. So you're making your way to the shower, and that other person just happens to be coming down in the opposite direction, and boom, you know, you get taken out with the kidney shot with the shank, or whatever the case happens, man. So this is why selling them wolf tickets is so dangerous. You have to prepare. You have to be prepared to back up what you are saying. So if you're acting all hard, saying nobody can touch you, you end up going to jail or the penitentiary, where all there is people who can't wait for the opportunity to get at you, especially if they hear that kind of talk from the people in the street, or they were around while he was talking that stuff, and we're just waiting for him to come in. Word spreads like wildfire, man. But anyways, so Tekashi right now, the only thing that's saving him is that because he has been so public with getting at his rivals and stirring the pot, getting people angry, it's so publicized that, just like with these kids that did that thing to Junior, well, not kids, because most of them are over 20, so these young adults that did that stuff to Junior, that's why these cops have them all separated. That's why when Tekashi went to Rikers, he was put in solitary, because they know, it's been so public that it's common sense, common knowledge, that if they put him in Gen Pop, or you put Tekashi in Gen Pop, there's like a more than 90% chance that something's going to happen. And with all eyes just waiting for that to happen, in a way, the Department of Corrections don't want anything to happen on their watch. Because then the public is going to say that it was either a setup or that security is lax. And both scenarios doesn't bode well for the Department of Corrections. They don't want those kinds of accusations thrown at them. Because then that opens doors to lawsuits and all this other kind of stuff that could happen. So don't be a Tekashi, man. You have to know when to be humble and when to be prideful. No matter how buff you are, no matter how big you are, no matter how tough you think you are, there's 3 or more people coming at you, it becomes harder to defend yourself. And if you got 3 or 4 or 5 people on top of you, you got 800 plus pounds, you ain't going to be doing no Super Saiyan stuff and pushing everybody off and doing some Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan stuff. It's a whole different world. That's why, I try to get kids and the ones that are under my leadership to keep from doing things that's going to get them put there. I want them to stay out so they can take care of the kids, their family, be able to go to the community barbecues, the community programs that are here. The communities need to invest in the youth programs. When I was little, there was a lot of advertisement for the YMCA, 4-H club, Boys and Girls Club, and all of those things are still around. They're not advertising anywhere near as much as they did back in the early 90s. That stuff has to come back, man. You got to take some of these kids and involve them in sports, man. Basketball, baseball, football, have different kinds of classes that they can take, not necessarily academic classes, but things that could teach them skills. So that their time is preoccupied with those things instead of hanging out in the corner listening to people who've already made the wrong mistakes, who already have spent 5 or 10 years in prison, and who don't care anymore because their record already has that black scar. That's going to follow them the rest of their life. So it makes it even harder for them to go legit. They want to bring everybody else on that level too, because these kids growing up nowadays that have no records, man, for assault, robbery, none of that stuff. They got a whole bunch of potential ahead of them. But the moment they get caught up in negativity and they start committing assaults, robberies, shoplifting, it starts putting that black mark on their record, man, and that follows them. It becomes extremely hard to rehabilitate yourself to society after you've been gone for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20 years. So much can change, man. In 2 years, instead of having the iPhone X, we could already be at the iPhone 14. Computers, we might all have virtual reality by then. Who knows? Time goes by like that. Yet you stayed on pause. And then you're stuck trying to play catch up and you can never quite get caught up because things are just moving too fast. People have moved on. The friends you used to have are not the same because while you were in the inside, X, Y, and Z happened to them on the outside. They got a new job, they got a new girl, they got a new kid, whatever the case may be, man. And it's never the same. So you want to make sure to stay out so you can enjoy those things and continue to build your own legacy, instead of just being that person that everybody used to know. Or yeah, that you used to be the hardest one on the block, but that doesn't mean nothing if you're trapped in a cage for 10 years. Because by the time you get out, you're going to have a whole generation of young busters that are going to come and try you. And they're not going to live by the same code or the same rules. They will have no problem shooting you in your sleep, taking you out while you're with your kid in the back seat. And it's sad, man. Tekashi has to grow up in a way. I understand that the way he's been acting has been making his name blow up, but it's not the right path for him in the long run, man. He ain't 40 yet. He ain't 35 yet. He's just starting to live. He's already signing his own warrant in a way, man, because it's only a matter of time. In this world, everybody knows what he looks like right now. But he doesn't know who everyone that wants to do him wrong looks like. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. Eddie R.